I think the other challenge as well, it extends out to the solution, is your clients, your new clients coming on board, wherever they are, they really want to see that local support and representation as well. So again, to scale the business and make sure that you have those folks in place to ensure the customer both starts their journey well and continues their journey well from acquisition into the organization.
Well, welcome to the podcast, the Safeopedia podcast. It's great to have you on with us. I'm speaking today with Colin Ball, and Colin is the Sales Director of Enterprise at EcoOnline. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with EcoOnline is your home for workplace safety. EcoOnline is highly intuitive EH&S software that helps organizations large and small surpass safety expectations and reach their safety excellence. So welcome, Colin. It's wonderful to have you.
Thank you, Tamara. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
So I wanted to dive in a little bit with you today. We're going to have a conversation about how to easily implement our safety software into our workforce operations. So I wanted to start off with, what is the easiest way to integrate our software into our workforce and our operations? What's your recommendations there?
Thank you. Tamara, I think for many years, a lot of organizations like ourselves and others in the market have been very focused on the customer journey and really selling the customer journey. But actually there's a real shift, and what we're focused on now and what we all should be focused on is the user journey. How does the solution fit the user need? How easy is it to use, right? So of course, you have to consider all those things that, senior leadership want, the ticks in the box that they need, the senior stakeholders, very different types of stakeholders often across our organizations, our clients. We're talking to different areas of the business, but really the bottom line is it comes down to the users and what does that user journey look like? Because, if it's not good, if it's not easy, if it's not a great experience, really from that minute they come into that solution, then you're up against it. You're struggling to convince folks that yours is the right solution. To answer your question directly, is make sure we're engaging with a whole spread of user stakeholders, right? And I don't want to say right down to the shop floor. It's not about that. It's about the roles that we all deliver in an organization, but it's making sure we have a balance and that there's a really strong mix in that stakeholder group to really assess and demonstrate the value in the software.
Yeah, no, and I like that you're bringing that. I like that you're taking it away from the customer journey, because there is a customer journey for the organization about purchasing software. I get that, but there's even a deeper user journey that I have seen in the past. They get a new piece of software in and it's all nice and shiny and everybody in IT is very excited. But there's an anxiety. I'm a health and safety professional myself, and I don't think that they were really identifying the anxiety that was occurring within the actual workforce when new tools, especially technology tools, come into play. We like to kind of poke fun that people are keeping to their Excel sheets or their pen or paper, but there's good reason for that.
Absolutely. And again, I think it really comes down to very early on in the process, ensuring, ensuring that, the users are engaged, they're getting hands-on, they're really feeling and seeing how easy the solution is to use. And of course, we do that in many ways, giving a prospective client a really good sandbox environment, detailed workshops, exploring the different real life scenarios that exist in that organization and addressing those and demonstrating, hopefully in every situation, how easy the solution is to use. And that overcomes that anxiety, or really helps overcome the concerns that, hey, this is a new tool. What am I going to be able to do? Am I going to be able to access it? oh, it's another tool I have to learn. It does. It really comes down to that user journey and it being easy and quick, and then feeling comfortable with it quickly.
Okay, so let's get under the hood a little bit here. Okay. How can you maybe suggest to IT professionals that need to roll this out to different users to make the users comfortable in order to use this as a daily tool? Because that's the key thing, right? I use my phone now, and 10 years ago, I didn't think I'd use a cell phone like I do now, where it's almost replaced my computer, my TV, anytime that even a physical map, I'm using the phone as a device, and even health watch, right? When
Yep.
I'm running and stuff, doing exercise. So the phone now has become a multi-use tool. And that's what our software that we're getting in should also be. And a lot of people focus on investigation and reports, but really in health and safety, that's a very small piece, and training, very small piece of the larger things that we're doing. So maybe you can help, navigate that. Like, what are your recommendations there?
Well, I think, certainly, and it's not just the IT folks, it can be multiple stakeholders in the organization, but as a collective, any really good implementation should be looking at those frictionless ways to use the system. So, removing those barriers, making it, looking for solutions and looking for functionality in a solution that is really going to let the user engage with the system easily. And that might be not even using a keyboard, not even using a mouse, not even using a PC screen, right? Might be a really nice application going through the mobile, going through the cell phone. It may be utilizing QR codes, where there's a QR code in a reporting area, perhaps. And again, it's simply a case of the user scanning that code with the camera on their cell phone and being presented with a simple form. Again, really taking the barrier down, taking the barrier out to being able to use the system. Things like text message.
I want to stick on the QR codes for one moment, because I think that's really an underutilized tool, those QR codes. Because, right now when we go to a restaurant, we click a QR code to get their menu. And I'm thinking, hold on a minute. If I'm clicking this to get a menu, then why can't I be at a machine and click on that to get instructions? Why, if I have a bottle of chemicals, why can I not have a QR code on a QR code on there, so that instead of running and looking for the book, right, the MSDS book, or trying to get it up somewhere on my phone, if I was able to use that, and then that exactly what I need for that chemical comes right on my screen. What do you need to do? Somebody got it in their eye. Bam, go here. Like, that would cut, in an emergency crisis, that would cut down a lot of time.
Absolutely. And I think, you're absolutely right, Tamara. This is simple. This is relatively simple technology that, we have embedded in our solution. Others do also. And you have to remember, people shouldn't be frightened by this technology. This is a digital presentation, a code, as we know, a square. Behind that, all that's sitting is a web page, effectively, a URL, right? We talk about a URL. That web page can be anything. So that QR code can take that user, take the person interacting with that QR code to wherever the organization wants to point them. So as you absolutely highlight, that could be a safety procedure, that could be a reporting form, that could be a chemical inventory. Absolutely wonderful example that we had recently with a client. Totally changed their business in terms of maintenance and safety in the laboratory area. QR code on the chemical cupboard, literally a live and dynamic inventory of what's in that chemical cupboard before a user's even opening the cupboard. And they don't need to update that code. They print it, they install it in one place. All the updating goes on behind that, on the actual web link. So it can be a really effective way to allow the user to easily interface with whatever information or whatever area of the system or solution you want them to go to.
Now, okay, so now I'm going to take a leap here because I'm thinking about the newer generations coming in and how they just kind of glide through the use of technology like they're skating on ice, right? And so I'm thinking just having a 17-year-old in the house, how archaic some of the stuff that we're doing is, like with Zoom and stuff, when they're on Discord, when they're doing so many, he's on VR, right?
Yep.
And so I'm thinking, well, you could even take this to a new level where that QR code could take you to a VR training course, for example. Like from what you're saying, I don't see why it couldn't do that. Am I off base here?
No, it's not futuristic. You could really be taking someone to wherever you want to take them. Of course, there might be a question around access and what you're facilitating there, but that can be permissions driven. But again, the world is your oyster in terms of thinking about some of those technologies. And one of the really considerable things that taking your point about different generations. I have 4 children, youngest is 9, oldest 17. I'm amazed at how they don't even use their fingers and thumbs now texting. They're just talking into those cell phones, right? So again, you have to think about voice first technology, solutions that allow you to literally, make that report or interact with the system in whatever area you're in, or with literally talking into the system, right?
Yeah.
Or and placing a video, potentially ability to just attach an image, maybe it's an observation of a hazard, just being able to attach that straight in from the camera. We are and we need to continue to leverage the modern technologies that we have, because the different generations frankly demand that different technology user experience.
And if you start to think about it, it's also removing barriers and opening up access. If anybody who has a cell phone, or say a tablet, whatever you have in your workplace that suits your environment, because I know cell phones not everywhere, but if somebody can go up to a QR code and access a training, say, a 3D training, where there's people, I know UPS does this, where they have people training from all different parts of the world, and they give them the Oculus, right? And so you go into the training room that's in an Oculus space, and then you're interacting with people in real time, doing real things. It's just phenomenal what is out there. Or you can go up to your QR code because something has occurred, and you can actually be an adult at work and help be responsible for putting in a report on a near miss, because if it's not so difficult. Am I hitting the mark here? What are your thoughts on what I'm thinking?
No, absolutely. I mean, let me give you a couple of real life examples. Remember, we're not just talking about using one QR code here. You're not talking about just one code in one location. You may have multiple QR codes on a piece of machinery, right? There may be a QR code that the operator is going to scan, and they're going to access, the regular maintenance log, or they're going to access a nice short how-to safety video on how the guarding on that machine should be, for example. We're working with a client right now who is looking to place QR codes on their fleet of forklift trucks to allow that regular maintenance management and reporting of that forklift truck fleet that up until now has really been quite a hidden piece of key data and very, very manual. So, it really does open up a world of opportunity.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, like, even in the retail environment that I was working in, like, if you could have QR codes on the slicers, so that even the deli workers at night, if the slicer guard breaks, they can just click on the codes, take a picture, say, yep, slicer guard broke again, and send it in. Then There's no excuse about why was that not reported. And then, what we often have in our environment is that this gets thrown into a drawer somewhere. it never gets reported, and then somebody has an injury. And it's
Absolutely.
and usually on a slicer, it's not just a simple injury. It's like they're diamond sharp, so that's slicing right down to the bone, or even the bone. Like, you know, you got missing fingers involved here. And so I'm just thinking, wow, you know, because even like the younger workers at night say, well, if we could report it, we would, but we don't have any way to do it. It's like, remove that barrier.
Yeah,
Give that
absolutely.
team.
Yeah. And you know, another thing to consider, Tamara, for the audience as well, is, you know, a lot of solutions out there are now offering the ability for a non-registered user, right? Somebody who is not necessarily part of the organization. You know, they may be a contractor, subcontracting, doing a job. They may be a, you know, a temporary worker coming in, maybe even a member of the public, right? You may even want to offer access to the public in an area. Again, the ability to access the system, make a report, really drive that safety culture. You're opening up the solution to give you that information to be safer, right? And to keep people and places safer.
Oh, I love that. You know, I didn't even think of that aspect of opening it up to the public or the consumer, the customer that's seeing it. You know, like I just had an incident the other day when I was out doing my jog in the morning, and I noticed a garbage truck in a worker was on the ground.
Wow.
Right, and hurt, and the other worker was just saying, oh, come on, get up, we got thousands of houses to do, we got to go, you know, we don't have time for this. This is exactly what we're talking about. There was a worker, he was disoriented for at least 10 minutes on the ground, right? And there was, other than calling 911, which was a little bit of overkill in the situation, there was no way as a bystander to kind of put in a report about what was going on. And that is critical information that is missing out of the system. That kind of
well,
engagement.
you know, Tamara, I'm reminded. I'm guessing you guys have this scenario in the US as well. Certainly seen it in the UK many times, where you'll be driving behind a truck, and there's a sign on that truck that says, "How's my driving?" Right,
Yeah.
and there's a number that you can call, and I'm guessing some folks do call those numbers, right? Probably calling the number when they see a negative driving style more than a positive one, right?
Yeah.
But think about that scenario you just given there. You know, if there was a safety reporting code on the side of that waste truck, you know, how safe, you know, how safe is our business? Something, I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you could have just scanned that, and you could have observed that, you know, that incident.
And to drive your point even more, there was actually 3 other people witnessing that also wanted to report it somehow, but not to 911. They wanted to report it to the company that this was going on, right? So to your point, opening up to the customers, why do you think there seems to be like this concern about who can report stuff? Can you help unveil that? Because that's always been a real mystery to me. Coming from a social work background, I think the more the information you get, the better, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really important point you're making there. And look, we live, you know, we have to live in the real world, right? You know, you can have these you can hold these very high standards and values of safety, and you know, we must do this way. But you know, we all know that unsafe things happen under pressure of jobs, you know, time pressure. Taking your example. So I think there sometimes can be an inherent pressure, you know, to not be that person that reported that incident, you know, not to make waves, not to cause a problem. I really think that is changing now. And again, you know, it's changing because of technologies. You know, we're talking a lot about this, the concept of using these QR codes. You know, there's the ability to report into a safety solution anonymously. So you don't need to be, you know, putting that name in and necessarily opening up that risk of some sort of negative effect. But nevertheless, being able to report an incident or you know, an unsafe act, or positively a safe act, right? You know, a nice safe act that's taken place, you're still driving that safety culture without the risk of you know, any sort of ramification. So I do genuinely think that there is a change there. And frankly, many organizations, let's not forget, now, particularly post-pandemic, we're looking at the well-being of folks, working from home, hybrid working, really mindful of people's well-being. I think there is a genuine shift to, it's really important to look after our people. Because you know what? If we look after our people, they feel happier, morale is higher, output is higher. People want to come and work for us. They want to stay working for us. I think a lot of those well-being factors really have and are coming to the fore, because you know what? The real difficult period that we've been through, and hopefully we're getting close to the end, I think has made people reset a lot in their thinking, right? And how they're living their life and the pressures maybe they're under. So I think organizations, again, have really awoken. Many organizations already had that mindset, but I think many more are waking up to just how important it is to really protect their people, to protect their places, and to protect their environment.
Yeah, no, okay, and now let's think about the new generation that's coming in, the younger generation coming in. They're using a lot of different technology than even we are. Like in their play, in their engagement with their peers. It's how is this going to impact the EH&S and operational managers in their journey to get on board and start using tech for those who aren't? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think that, it's going to be naturally driven by, those generations actually coming through into roles and coming through into leadership roles. But, again, we talk about wearables, we talk about different systems integrating, the expectation, the absolute expectation that they're going to have a nice, simple user journey. We all know that, that we go into a website or we jump on our phones and we go into an application. If it's not easy, if it's not intuitive, okay, you may give it a minute or two, but, very quickly you're going to move away from it. You're not going to use it. You're not going to buy that service. You're not going to adopt that service. So again, I think that's being naturally driven by the change in expectation and the demand for that seamless technology experience. And I think importantly as well, we mustn't lose sight of this. Information is so readily available now and so quickly shared that, gone are the days when, you could have a negative incident or a potential, a high potential situation. And there was only a few folks that knew about it, right? It didn't become a high profile thing. It didn't become a business share value affecting thing. Well, now, with social media and the power of all of the platforms and the, communication of information literally at the speed of light, there's a real focus on, being safe, keeping safe. There's a real impact on business if business is seen to not be facilitating safety and not giving, its folks the tools to be safe. And those tools will naturally include, wearables, AI, thinking about artificial intelligence where, it's mapping data, AI and CCTV, we're already using that. We're already integrating with that. Again, that's really being able to map risk and de-risk situations. So again, I think, it's a natural process, but of course it's software companies like ours and many others' job to really educate the market as to how embedded technology can make drive safety culture and make their lives a lot easier.
Yeah. And I we touched on this before in another conversation, is that also looking at like the generation that's coming into the workforce, just their why about how, like, around using technology is so much different than our generations. And a piece of what you said, I hear resonate a lot in this house with the teenagers is if it takes too much of their time to figure it out, they discard it very quickly. They're like,
Absolutely.
I don't want a big learning curve to figure out how to use something.
Yeah.
Make it easy. I can get on it and get doing my thing. So how's that going to be coming into play? Because they're not going to just be wanting to use stuff for like an audit report. They're going to blow this up.
Yeah. Well, I think it's already here tomorrow. You know, there's an acceptance and a recognition that you have to keep it simple. Now, that doesn't mean you have to dumb down your solution. That means that it doesn't mean that you're not doing the job properly. It just means that you ask folks to do really what they need to do to the extent they need to do it, and you give them the tools to make that easy. So whether that's maybe reporting through, you know, a social media platform, or reporting through, or interfacing with a QR code, or a voice first interface. You know, it's about making sure that the tools are there, multiple tools for different people, because different people like different ways of interacting and communicating. But you keep it simple. You know, you don't ask for unnecessary information at that initial point. You can always go back and get that information later, right? You can always, you know, if it's a serious situation, then you're going to drive in, you're going to have a whole set of actions and audit and improvements, safety observations. But you know, keep it simple, keep it nice and easy to use, and then folks are engaged.
And I think also another piece, I'm just thinking of something else, another community member had shared with us, and bless their heart because they're so good natured, is that also the how this generation uses stuff is a little bit different. So they were saying like some of the videos on their feed, when people are reporting safe things that somebody has done, they like to do that. If something's safe, they like to point it out, like, hey, you know, or if something's unsafe, pointing it out. But it comes across more like a TikTok style. It's like, you know, so I'll be looking at the feed, and then all of a sudden there's this video that's kind of like a TikTok feed, right? And I thought that's kind of cool. That kind of says something.
Yeah, well, and hey, you know, we need to encourage that and embrace it, and make sure that the tools can accommodate it. Because you know what, if someone is uploading a 30, 60-second TikTok style video of, you know, a safety observation, or you know, something that could be improved, well, you know what, that's really valuable information. And it's just about making sure that the tools allow the senior users, or the dedicated users, to access that information, do stuff with it if they need to do stuff with it, and feedback as well to the user. I think that's really important as well, is making sure that there's a two-way communication, right?
Yeah.
If you're driving safety culture, you really want to go back and engage with those folks. And you know, even if it's anonymous reporting, right? You can run campaigns around, you know, all the great stuff that's been getting reported, all the safety improvements that have been made and observed. So again, there's I think a real responsibility that, you know, we have to communicate, you know, and we have to obviously have the tools that allow us to do that.
Yeah. And you were starting to talk about before also using notifications and stuff, those type of different tools also.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you know, the thing. I mean, some, you know, text messages, SMS, and a lot of folks say, well, hey, you know, that's old technology. Well, you know what? A lot of folks like to get a notification through on a text message.
Yeah.
You know, I'll still read a text message. I probably won't go into my phone looking for my emails all the time. So again, it's just about using the tools and thinking about mixing up the technologies to get to the, you know, the different audiences and the different outcomes that you're trying to achieve. So it really is a mix.
And that's also good for a critical emergency situation. You know, I remember like one of the teenagers was saying to me is like, you know, they really wish that in the workplace there was some easy way to just, if something's happening, to notify somebody. Like, why do we have to run around the workforce and like the work site and try to find a manager? They're like, that's so archaic. Why
Absolutely.
isn't there like a QR code or something that we can just click on with our phones and send a text message and it goes to all their phones instead of somebody wasting their valuable time trying to hunt them down? I was like, wow, that's actually ingenious. Why didn't
Yeah.
we think of that? We're supposed to be the professionals, right?
Absolutely. No, I mean, again, real life situation, we have several global customers who are using text messages to send out that, that urgent notification of, an action maybe that
Yeah.
every site needs to be aware of. Maybe there's been an issue in a certain plant machinery that exists across the board. Quickly get that notification out whilst, if you like, the process catches up. So, it can be used very effectively. And again, you can have a dedicated number where someone is sending that text message or sending that social media message, and that is going to a dedicated group of stakeholders that are receiving that message and then are acting upon it.
And I think also through our conversation, a big theme here is don't be afraid to turn it around. Let go of that control, let your users do the notifications to you, to the management team, so that the customers also, you were saying before, let them have access, because people can do anonymously. And because that's also going to provide you more opportunity. Now we're almost at our close of our podcast, but I did want to ask you, before we go, what are some of your recommendations to help people avoid common mistakes that are made when they're implementing new safety tech into an organization?
Great, thank you. Well, I would say, the most important thing is to make sure you bring a mixed group of stakeholders together, right? Don't get locked into that ivory tower. Don't get locked into those silos. So open it up, right? And include, the users of the solution, include different areas of the business. Make sure that that's a really good mix that's going to think about what the needs are in the business and sort of scope the requirement, right? At a high level, think about the pain points that you have in the business. Be honest about those pain points. There's some honesty and soul searching required here sometimes, because if you don't admit to it, you're not going to fix it. So, really think about that transparent internal process of, hey, what are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to solve, with a really good mixed group? I would then, recommend, look at the market and the technologies that are out there. Really think outside the box about, many of the things that we've touched on today. What is our user demographic? Think about the user journey. Accept that if it's not an easy user journey, you can do all the work in the world, your solution is not going to get adopted. It's not going to be successful. So I really think, that take a good, strong look at the user experience in the solution. I think the other very, very important point is don't bite off too much, right? Don't bite off more than you can chew. Start small, identify some of those key areas. Yeah, of course, scale the solution and look at all those different areas that you probably want to address, but don't go with a big bang. Just maybe look at it, a key area of the business or a particular division or company within a group. And again, same rules apply. Make sure that there's a representative stakeholder group. If it is a wider project, make sure the whole group is represented with a key stakeholder, and that those stakeholders really are empowered to input and to help mold the final solution. And then I think really importantly, engage with those companies that can demonstrate that they really have embraced technology, that they've got a modern technology infrastructure that addresses many of the things that we've touched on, and that they have a really strong customer and user journey ethos.
Yeah.
I think they would be really, key areas to focus on. It's always coming back to that user journey, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, and I like what you say, look at the audience, your user audience. Are you working with people who have been in the same work site for 40 years and used to doing things a certain way? Well, then use the technology in a way that's going to help facilitate what they need to do. Engage with them, talk with them, share with them, get them excited about ideas of how it can make their job easier. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure that the technology doesn't get in the way.
Yeah.
Really quickly address how the technology is going to make their life easier, is going to help them do their job, is going to keep them safer, is going to keep them safe to go home at night and see their folks.
And then do it small bites.
Absolutely.
Don't try to do a whole elaborate program and overwhelm everybody. Just do something small and get them used to it.
Start small. I mean, you can plan big, and you can get a big project signed off and approved and hit the road. But you always really want to start with a solution that will scale. So typically, a modular solution as well. Some really great solutions out there you can just build, and again, as you do that, folks will come on board and they will really drive that project success for you.
And I like the other piece that you shared about networking with other successful companies in your industry. Health and safety professionals are very good at sharing. And I've talked to individuals that are the head of L'Oreal, who's the head of Jacobs, etc. And every single one of them belong to a group of their peers where they can go and talk to industry in the same industry about things and get ideas. So that's what those who excel do. So it's great advice. Thank you.
Yeah. No, you're welcome, Tamara. That's a really important point. Share that best practice. I came into this space 14 years ago from a very commercial, competitive space. I was astounded at just how much best practice sharing and genuine helping of each other in terms of choosing those solutions exists. And we all gain from that. You gain from that best practice.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Colin, for joining us today. This has been amazing.
Thank you for having me, Tamara. It's been a pleasure. We've covered some great points, I hope.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you to EcoOnline for the sponsorship of this episode. And for those of you who aren't familiar with EcoOnline is your home for workplace safety. EcoOnline is a highly intuitive EH&S software that helps organizations large and small surpass safety expectations and reach safety excellence. So thank you everybody for joining us today. If you're looking for some great software, check out EcoOnline and Colin will be able to help you. And if you're looking for some great safety content to share out with your team or your network, check out safeopedia.com. Until next time, stay safe.